Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball Podcast, hosted by #basketball.com, your home for the very best fantasy basketball tools and articles on the internet. Go check them out right now, #basketball.com. I'm your host, Mike Catron, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
Michael, it is a very, very cold day here.
It is. I think it's a cold day maybe everywhere in America at this point.
Dude, our feels like temperature was -20 today.
That is like legitimately like life-threatening, dangerously cold.
Yeah, it was very, very depressing. And it was one of those things where like so cold, you went outside for like a second and you were like, I think I might just go back in now. This is not seeming like anything I want to be a part of.
No, I did not leave the house today. It's Martin Luther King Day. There's basketball on. It was a banker's holiday. My new job is at a bank. I'm not a banker because that sounds like a terrible job. But no offense to our banker listeners out there, but it sounds like a rough way to earn a living. So I work for a bank, so I got the day off. It was great.
What games did you watch, Mike? Let's hear it. Did you see the Luka Doncic triple-double? Did you see the Sixers and Rockets? What did you see? What did you see today?
I saw Sixers and Rockets. You know, that was a solid game. I did watch a little bit of that Bulls win. I didn't watch I think I came in late.
You were hoping to see Carmelo, and then he wasn't out there for some reason?
Yeah, I was hoping to see finally the Carmelo Anthony era in Chicago. What are the odds that Melo actually plays a game for the Bulls this year?
0%. It sounds like they're gonna waive him, right? Or try to trade him themselves.
Another amazing ditch for money. I mean, it'd be nice. They should just hold on to him until they have to get rid of him. See if they can trade him to the Lakers or something like that.
Well, and like for as much crap as he caught, like okay, he is what he is at this point, and that's not the Carmelo Anthony of old, but like he can still do some things.
Yeah, like it's kind of like maybe not all the way, but it's kind of like what happened with Derrick Rose, where everybody's like, that guy should be out of the league. It's like, no, Derrick Rose just needs to learn to play his position based on his skills. And it's like the same thing with Melo. Like he's an off the bench scorer. Like if you wanted to bring him in and get some points during second team trash time, he would be pretty good for that.
It's and he's proven the last few years that he can be about a league average 3-point shooter. And I mean, like he can just be that kind of sixth man scorer off the bench. And obviously he has to accept that role, that's been the difficult part for him, is realizing he's not the Carmelo Anthony he once was, the superstar player. But at the same time, like if he can come to grips with that and just want to play basketball, kind of like Derrick Rose is doing now, right? Like Derrick Rose was a superstar. Now he's a sixth man.
Yeah. And I don't think Melo didn't have the hardcore injuries that Derrick Rose did. Derrick Rose worked his ass off to get back to where he is. Melo's just kind of on the tail end of his career. So, like, is there a sixth man of the future in Melo? No, absolutely not. But, would he be able to come in for a contending team and maybe win a playoff game? Yeah, that potentially could happen.
Yeah, I think this Rockets team, just thought he was going to be something different than what we saw last year in Oklahoma City, and I think that was their mistake, right? It's like he is what he is.
Yes, he is certainly Melo, whatever that happens to be right now, and I certainly don't think he is going to be fantasy relevant whatsoever, especially if he's on the Bulls for the next few weeks or so. Don't see if Jabari Parker can't get any time. I'm not really sure Melo's going to get any more. Jabari Parker is like a rich man's Melo.
That's probably fair.
I also need to. I didn't catch this game, but I might need to retract what I said in the very last episode of Watching the Boxes. kind of called out the fact that there's no way Jahlil Okafor is going to play starters minutes and be relevant. And he ended up playing 35 minutes and having a 20 and 10 game with 2 blocks. Are you? I'm shocked. What should we make of this, Tyler?
And we should have probably talked about this yesterday, right? So there are kind of 4 or 5 things that played in the favor of Jahlil Okafor in this game. One, the Grizzlies are always going to play big, right? Like at all times, they're going to have 1 or 2 of Jaren Jackson Jr., Marc Gasol, and JaMychal Green on the court. Meaning, there's always going to be somebody Okafor can guard, right?
Yeah, they'll need that. They need that body out there.
Right. Secondarily, it was a blowout game, allowing, someone's got to play, and they don't really play the bench that much. So they still played Drew Holiday 39 minutes despite winning by 20. But they did give a little rest to Randall and Etuan Moore. So that, I think, let Okafor get a few more minutes. And thirdly, Okafor made 9 out of 11 shots, which is not going to stay.
Yeah, I think we were right in our initial assessment of Okafor is not the answer. Mirotic is going to get more minutes. Randall, even Etuan Moore, who only played 20 minutes. So this is a weird blowout game, like you said. I think we're right in our assessment. We just failed to realize that the Grizzlies were next, and that would actually open it up. I think if this game was not a blowout, you would have saw less minutes from Okafor.
Oh, I think that's 100%. 100%. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I'm not going out and picking Okafor out of my waiver wire at all, but a lot of you did.
Well, and so here's the things to say about that, okay? So 1 to 2 weeks, so you got to figure at least the rest of this week, Okafor is going to be so right? So let's look at the games they're going to play the rest of this week. They have 3 more games, okay? They play Detroit, they play Oklahoma City, they play San Antonio. It's kind of a decent slate for Jahlil Okafor to get some minutes. They need a center definitely against Andre Drummond and Steven Adams.
Yes.
So now it's a Wednesday, Thursday back-to-back, which obviously it's hard to play somebody 35 minutes both nights of a back-to-back, but I could see Okafor getting around 30 minutes in both those games just because they need that big body out there.
Well, this might be the week for Jahlil Okafor then. Who, like we said this many times leading up to this point in the season, and here it is. There's going to be a weird name that comes out of nowhere that's suddenly relevant, that's suddenly playing some minutes due to an injury or a weird tanking situation. And here we are, January 21st, Jahlil Okafor.
I'll throw this out there. I think there's probably even going to be a quote-unquote weirder name. There'll be somebody who's like not even in the league right now that gets a 10-day contract at some point and is like semi-fantasy relevant.
So I completely agree. So with this, the rest of the schedule for the Pelicans, would you take a flyer on Okafor if you're in the need for like rebounds?
Rebounds, yeah. I mean, it depends too on what your league looks like, right? Like, would I rather have Noah Vonleh or Okafor? Probably Vonleh. I feel a little bit better about him playing the minutes. Now, and Okafor gives you a lot more upside for points than Vonleh. Like we've seen when Okafor played big minutes, right? What did he do? He rebounded and scored. Now there wasn't a lot else with that, but there was pretty good percentages and no 3-pointers, but that's okay. You got to know what you're buying. Okafor is not the worst shot, but at the same time, like people, I got a question today was like, should I drop Rondo or Thomas Satoransky for Okafor? And I was like, well, if you need big man stats, that's fine, but I'd much rather have those other 2 guys for the rest of the season than I would Jahlil Okafor.
Yeah, same. And like, if Tristan Thompson ever comes back, I feel like Tristan Thompson is a much better, more consistent starter than Okafor. So like we're talking about just this week, Okafor seems like he's in play. Rest of the season wise, like I said, not even attempting to have him on my roster. Looking at the rest of the league, you mentioned Rajon Rondo, and looking at these waiver wires, a lot of people made a move on Jahlil Okafor. A lot of people are making a move on Melo. I think that's a bad idea because I don't think he's going to be playing anytime soon.
Well,
But a lot of people are picking up Rajon Rondo too.
Let's talk about Melo for a second.
Sure.
Okay. Even at his best role for Carmelo now, like what is he really gonna do that makes him super fantasy relevant, other than maybe score like 14 points a game?
I can't think of one. 3-pointers? Everybody gets 3-pointers. It's like I can't think of anything.
You know what I mean? And maybe hits like 2.5 3-pointers a game, and that's making him, he's a points and threes kind of stream. But other than that, like, is 5.5 rebounds special? No. Is 1 assist special? No. Is half a block and half a steal special?
Nope.
No. Like,
I mean, look what he did last year on Oklahoma City: 16 points, 2 3-pointers, 6 rebounds. Half a block, half a steal.
And that was in 32 minutes, right? Like, it's going to be hard for him to get 32 minutes no matter what team he goes to.
That's in 32 minutes a game. So he was hovering around the droppable list all last season. And in fact, at one point was definitely droppable. And that's like the best case scenario with 32 minutes a game. It's not going to happen.
Well, and he actively hurts you in so many categories with the bad percentages and the little to no assists. Like, I just don't really get adding Melo now. Sure, if we see a hot streak from Melo at some point in the season, he gets on a team and he's playing like 28, 30 minutes a night and he's shooting the ball well, then maybe I stream him in for a game or two. But other than that, like, why pick up and hold Melo for the next week, 2 weeks? Like, the Rockets couldn't trade him all season, basically. So who makes anyone think Chicago's going to be able to? What it's going to happen is it's going to get past the trade deadline. Chicago will buy him out and he'll go play for somebody maybe in a bench.
And he'll be in LA before we know it.
But even in that, like, we're still, almost 3 weeks away from the trade deadline? So, why hold this guy on your roster unless this is like a 30-team league or something crazy? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense unless you're in a super, super deep league. I do see a little bit more of the logic when it comes to Rajon Rondo.
I see a ton of logic when it comes to Rondo.
He's due to be back within the week or so, and Lonzo Ball is out for the next month and a half. So that is something we had not talked about. A lot of people going after Rondo right now on the waiver wires, and Josh Hart.
Yeah, so when we look at Rondo, he averages per 36 minutes for his career 9.6 assists. He's been over that number or right at it in 4 out of the last 5 years. So when you look at Rondo like that's why you're picking him up, right? You got to figure there's no other point guard. They're calling up Alex Caruso from the G League, and we've seen Caruso in the past. He's not that good. So you got to figure they're probably going to give Rondo 28 to 30 minutes at least while Lonzo Ball is out, and it might even be more like 32 minutes. That probably means Rondo is going to get you like 7, 8, 9 assists a game. Like, that alone can swing that category for you in a lot of head-to-head matchups or make you come back a good ways in a roto league. Now, you got to know what you're buying with Rondo. He's going to hurt you in spots, right? He's going to be a point guard that gives you relatively no 3-pointers. The assists are just okay the last couple of years, right? He's only averaging like around 1, which isn't great for a point guard. He's not scoring the ball a ton. Like, if he cracks double digits, he'll be doing good for himself as far as points, but the rebounds are pretty good, and he's going to give you great assists.
Yeah, I think at this point in his career, everybody should know what Rondo is capable of. And even at this age, the assists are there, the steals are down, but they're still relevant. And he's a decent rebounder for a point guard. So I would take a flyer on Rajon Rondo if he is available in really any standard league where you are desperate for some assists. I think that's pretty much a no-brainer. Get him on your roster now. I think he's available looks like, and according to Yahoo, he is only owned in 43% of leagues. So that means he's available in quite a few leagues. Let's talk about another guy out in LA. Not Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I know everybody wants us to talk about it. It's the waiver wire episode. Emmanuel Mudiay or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are the two number 1 waiver wire players this season. We're not going to talk about those guys, even though Gilgeous-Alexander had a monster game the other night in Golden State and then fell back off expect that to happen probably a couple more times this season. I'm talking about.
It's because Lou Williams was out, for the record.
That's true. Defensive juggernaut Lou Williams. Excuse me. Yeah, I guess he had to take the bulk of the load. Poor, Lou Williams. I'm actually talking about a different Clipper because this Clipper is back in action. Played 42 minutes last night. Patrick Beverley had 18 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 steals with a block. 4 3-pointers. Pretty much a career game for Patrick Beverley when it comes to looking at a fantasy stat line. Do you have any interest in Patrick Beverley, standard league relevant, over the next month or so?
No, see, I held out hope for Beverley for a long time this season in the sense that we've seen him kind of have some special steals and blocks numbers and, produce some decent assists for a point guard. But, man, he's just really not getting the minutes on this Clippers team. And it has a lot to do with the whole Shai Gilgeous-Alexander thing too, right? Like, there's Avery Bradley, they're just splitting the minutes between so many guards on this team. And they have so many. Lou Williams, we mentioned. They got Jerome Robinson, who hasn't been playing a whole ton, but he's on the roster. You know what I mean? Milos Teodosic can't get a sniff of minutes. So I think they're just going to keep splitting the minutes with, everybody getting somewhere between 25 and 30, and it's going to hurt the value of a lot of these guys. So if you told me Beverley was going to play like 30 to 32 minutes a game, I'd be somewhat interested in Beverley, especially in that streamers class, or maybe even worth owning, depending on if he had the ball in his hands a little bit more, playing a little bit more point guard. But from what I've seen so far, I think, he's probably not even really that much of a streamer in the sense that, like, what is he really doing that super helps you?
Yeah, man, you do wish you could just, like, if they would throw him in at point guard, let him have at it, let him just kind of run the team. Like, that'd be nice, even though, like, I know that's not his, like, what he excels at, but that would be the only way he becomes fantasy relevant, and getting those steals, getting the assists up with being the kind of the premier point guard on the Clippers, and that's just not going to happen.
What we gotta hope for is a Clippers Magic trade, where Pat Beverley goes to the Magic and gets to be the point guard.
That would be great. That would be ideal, because who is the point guard now in Orlando? Does anybody know?
DJ Augustine's actually not been playing that bad.
Oh, good for him. Good for DJ Augustine. I'm proud of him for staying relevant after all these years. Who would have thought? Was DJ Augustine, did he play in Texas?
In Texas or for Texas?
For the University of Texas. Was he on that KD team?
That's a good question. I'd have to look that up. I do not remember. He did play for Texas in college.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's a good memory, Mike. I had compartmentalized that somewhere far back in my brain.
I was trying to think of how long DJ Augustine has been in the league, and I was like racking my brain, and I was like, okay, University of Texas, KD. That was quite a while ago. He is currently 31 years old. So the fact that, like, DJ Augustine has played in the NBA for this long, this many years, I'm actually surprised. 11 years, 11 seasons. 9th
pick of the 2008 draft. Do you know who's the number 1 pick in that draft, Mike?
Jahlil Okafor.
Oh, come on.
What year was that?
2008 draft.
Oh, he came out after KD, so it wasn't KD. Blah, 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 blah.
Oh, I'm disappointed.
Derrick Rose.
Yes. I know you looked that up, you cheater.
I did. I looked it up. I had to look it up. I was like, it's Kevin Durant.
The Bucks taking Joe Alexander over DJ Augustine with the number 8 pick.
Good choice. Great choice. Not a bad little draft here.
This was actually a really good draft in the sense that there was a ton of guys, even in the second round, that worked out to be NBA players. No, I lied. The second round was pretty bad, but the late first round was actually pretty darn good with Nick Batum, Serge Ibaka, George Hill.
Brooke Lopez was in this draft. It feels, man, I can't believe Brooke Lopez.
Brooke and Robin were both in this draft.
And Robin Lopez were both in the Derrick Rose draft. That's such a long time ago.
Roy Hibbert was in this draft. R.I.P. Roy
Dale
Hibbert.
McGee was in the just Serge Ibaka,
I
Nick
mean,
Batum, George Hill, Daryl
but
Arthur, DJ White.
DeAndre Jordan was in the second round of this draft. Mario Chalmers,
Pour one
Luka
out for
Mute.
Pekovic. Pour one out.
Dude, he was one of my favorite players for a hot minute. I'm not gonna lie.
He basically everything that Nurkic is what Pekovic should have been.
Like he just like mean mugged some guys and stared them down, and I was like, dude, I'm on board with this cat.
He was a scary, scary giant Montenegrin man, like just a beast of a human being.
What's crazy is like how fast some of these guys like flame out. Like him and Roy Hibbert both kind of did the same thing. Like they were like really good for a hot second, and then
well, at least Roy Hibbert. By the way, Toronto Raptors traded him to Indiana. That's interesting. Once Roy Hibbert actually had like a period of time where he was like an elite center in the league, where it was like, man, if Roy Hibbert could just figure out how to have a more offensive game, and he was like the king of like the straight jumping straight up, and for some reason jumping straight up and still running into the person is not a foul. There was a whole couple of playoff series where the goal was to try to injure Derrick Rose because that would be the only way that the Indiana Pacers could win. So, fuck the Indiana Pacers and fuck Indiana as well. But like the league evolved as Roy Hibbert like became valuable. The league like evolved out from under him, and he just like fell off the face of the earth.
I will agree with that. Like there was a moment though where what was the trade? Oh god, I wish I could remember. He was like a 2-time All-Star, and they were talking about trading him, and like somebody offered something crazy for him, and then like 2 years later he was out of the league.
Yeah, what was it? I don't remember. I know what you're talking about. He was traded to the Lakers for a second-round pick, and then he was traded to the Bucks for Miles Plumlee. But man, I remember what you're talking about. They probably should have made that trade, guys. You know what? Good riddance, Roy Hibbert. I hope he's all right, but like that guy should have never been an All-Star. The East was so bad all those years. There was only like 2 valid teams, whatever team was LeBron was on. And then like I guess the Wade Heat were valid for a little bit. The Bosch Raptors were okay. The only real good team was the healthy Rose Chicago Bulls. Like that was the best team in the league for most wins in the league for 2 years straight, and that should have been the LeBron versus Bulls for that should have been basically that entire period of NBA history, and instead we had to deal with the Pacers. Oof. Those Pacers team were not that good.
Dude, you're just hating today. You got your hate. You've been drinking your haterade.
Those Pacers teams were not that good.
We got to get you back to work so that way you're a little bit happier.
No, I know. I was there. I even went to some Pacers playoff games. They weren't that good. They never ever had a chance against the Heat. Just not even close. Sorry, Indiana. Not really. What a terrible state. All right, enough about the DJ Augustine leading into the trashing of Indiana and the Indiana Pacers. Though I'm gonna throw Indiana Pacers a bone, not the state of Indiana. One of the better, if not top tier stadium to go watch a basketball game at. So shout out to the Pacers for that. Let's get back to the waiver wire this week. Here is the number one guy that everybody is picking up. Everybody's excited about for some reason. Ante Zizic.
Ante? There's someone's Ante?
He's the anti-Zizic to my Zizic. The most handsome Cleveland Cavalier, easily. He's feasting on the lack of Tristan Thompson, getting boards, the occasional block, scoring some points. Not doing a whole lot, like to be like an outstanding fantasy player, but he's doing enough to be relevant. Tyler, what is your outlook on Zizek this coming month?
Man, this is a good question because we've seen this guy kind of bubble up in the past, right? And then quickly slide into obscurity. So the question becomes, can he hold the value? So these Greg Monroe or this Roy Hibbert thing is crazy too. Apparently there were a ton of like offers for him when they first put him on the block, including for people like Greg Monroe, Goran Dragic, and the Pacers apparently said no to all of them. And then Roy Hibbert was out of the NBA in like 2 years. So
it's a shame. Not really. Screw Indiana, but I guess they came back with Oladipo. Good trade. Is the anti Zizek? Is he the modern day Roy Hibbert?
No. So I mean, this is probably only going to last till Tristan Thompson comes back, right? They're both centers. So there's that to be said. For Zizic, I mean, come on. He wasn't playing 13 and a half minutes a game on the season for this Cavs team. Like,
yeah, one of the worst teams in the league. He can barely get on the court. He doesn't have good percentages. A good free throw shooter for a big. A decent rebounder when you look at his per 36.
But that's what I mean. He's literally like a 4 category contributor because, like, okay, he's got good percentages, but he's not taking a ton of volume, so that's not super helping you. Yeah. And he's averaging like 12.5 points and like 6 rebounds for this month. But other than that, there's like no defensive stats. There's no assists. There's no threes. So
yeah, I mean, it's the categories that everybody seems to either ignore or punt. He's really good at never turning the ball over because he probably doesn't have the ball in his hands more than 2 seconds anyway. His free throws and his percentages are fine. Like they're pretty good for a big. And then he's a rebound and points guy. And we just talked about a bunch of rebounds and points guy. Like Jahlil Okafor is a rebound and point guy. And he's definitely going to be, if you told me both of these guys are going to play 28 minutes a game for the next month, I'd probably take Okafor over Zizic.
Yeah, and the minutes thing is just hard to believe in for this guy, man. Like, on that team as bad as that, if you're getting DMP CDs, like, I don't have a lot of faith in you.
No, that's pretty bad. I mean, this team is very bad. They're worse than the Bulls. I didn't think that would be possible, but they are. They're worse than the Bulls.
Well, and the Bulls at least have some exciting players. Like, who's Cleveland have?
Yeah, like, is anyone truly excited about Cedi Osman or Colin Sexton?
That's what I mean. Jordan Clarkson can get some points, but can't play any defense.
Point guard of the future, Cameron Payne.
You know what I mean? Like, that Cavs team is just bad. And, you know, they got Kevin Love, I guess, but I don't know that that's an asset at this point, just in the sense that he's on that huge contract. And, I mean, Kevin Love's good, but he's got a lengthy injury history. And, you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know about Cleveland, man.
I don't either. I will give a shout out. I think this is a if I see how many people have actually added this guy, quite a few to over 2,000 ads for Mo Harkless. You know what's strange, Tyler? I'm pretty sure we have over 2,000 subscribers, and it looks like a little over 2,000 people added Mo Harkless on Yahoo. I know people, listen to your advice, Tyler. I know you're an influencer in the fantasy basketball space. I wonder if this Mo Harkless love is all from the one and only Tyler Watts.
I thought maybe I just made 2,000 Yahoo accounts and added him in every one.
That's also my guess. I assume you are the 2,000. You have subscribed to this podcast with all your Yahoo accounts as well. So you have all those emails, you have all those podcast subscriptions, and you added Mo Harkless in all 2,000 of your leagues. So congratulations.
I'm very good, man. I can influence anything.
You are, yeah. I mean, that's quite frankly, a lot of influencers out there just bought a lot of their followers and use that to be considered an influencer. Which, if you're considered an influencer, you get more follows, and it's like this reoccurring reciprocal fucking dog eat head eat tail kind of nonsense that blows you up into someone who ends up at Firefest, and then you are fighting for your life with a bunch of other rich idiots who get what they deserve.
I'm pretty sure that was a sentence where you didn't say anything. You just said a bunch of words. I'm not sure that even made any sense.
I wanted to humble brag that I watched the Fire Festival Netflix. It's on. There's another one on Hulu too. I'll probably check it out. But if everybody remembers the Fire Festival ordeal, I feel bad for literally no one involved other than the contractors and the people on the islands who did all the hard work. All the people who did hard labor, hard work, worked on this project, and then these scumbag rich people just stiffed them. Get a class action lawsuit and sue these people. Like get that money, because they certainly don't deserve it. And that's the you got to be careful, Tyler. I don't want you to get mixed up in that, since you're an influencer now. I don't want you to get mixed up in the next Fire Festival.
I mean, anything could happen, I guess.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows where you'll be this time next year, Tyler? Are there any other waiver wire players that you've been kind of keeping an eye on, Tyler?
No, man, I think that about covers it.
Yeah, I think that is about it. I mean, we often talk about a lot of these players, and it still seems like there's people are picking up Bismack Biyombo, just like Tyler has been letting everybody know for the last couple weeks. Here's one I'd like to throw out there: Marco Bellinelli on the Spurs. One last one. DeMar DeRozan is going to miss some time. Bellinelli is now playing extra minutes. Is Bellinelli probably the guy we talked about the most today? Maybe Rondo or Bellinelli? Who would you rather have if I could guarantee that they would play 32 minutes a game for the next 2 weeks?
Well, I mean, this is a good question in the sense that it's probably not going to happen, right? We know Pop doesn't like to play anyone super, super huge minutes.
True.
So that's what it's saying. We saw Bellinelli have a really good 28 games with the Sixers last year in that kind of half a season, and he played pretty well for the Hawks. Too. I definitely rather have Rondo. I mean, he stands out in that assist category, gets you some rebounds, going to get you some steals. Bellinelli's probably more like, even at 30 minutes a game, like a one steal guy with a couple of assists, like 2.5 assists, right? Like 2.5 rebounds, maybe. He's basically going to be an ad for 3-pointers and points. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's a lot of those guys out there, so I'd definitely rather than Rondo.
Yeah, there are rare categories that you get from Rondo, but I'd say Bellinelli is almost as valuable depending on what your league. If you're okay in assists, Bellinelli becomes a lot more interesting.
Yeah, I feel like we know what Bellinelli is too. Like, if you need what Bellinelli is going to give you, I mean, that's fine. He's playing more minutes. He's going to keep playing more minutes. I mean, it's hard to me to say, like, yeah, definitely add him, because there's not much steals and blocks help. I mean, like, maybe one steal a game. There's not a ton of assists and rebounds help. So it's just kind of a very boxed in skill set.
That is true. I think that is it for the waiver wire this week, Tyler. Listeners, if you like what you're hearing, please rate and review us, whatever you're listening to this on. It really helps people find the podcast, helps us out, gets us out there. On top of that, go check out patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. If you'd like to subscribe, get to listen to this podcast and our Buy Low, Sell High podcast before it is released on the normal podcast stream. So you get exclusive content along with direct access to Tyler and I. So go check out patreon.com/watchingtheboxes and help, fund and support the show. We really appreciate that. If you want to get a hold of us for feedback on the show, you can find Tyler at Tyler P. Watts, along with all the other stuff he is writing about the Dallas Mavericks and all over about the NBA and fantasy basketball. And you can find me at Watch the Boxes, tweeting out insults to various states and cities, and inappropriate comments that are pretty ice cold takes within 2 weeks during a basketball game with the Bulls, where I'm just angry tweeting, and maybe even the occasional pop culture reference. No substance whatsoever. If you'd like to follow me at Watch the Boxes. I think that's it for tonight. Everybody, we'll see you next time.